Hey everyone, good morning. It is Russ Nesovich from Nesovich Law. We have offices in Morristown, New Jersey and Manalapan, New Jersey, so Burlington County and Monmouth County. And today, I thought we would do something a little different. I've been doing a lot of videos, just giving you information, tips, updates on estate planning, what's going on in our offices, updates on the law, things that we're doing for our clients, things that everybody should be thinking about in the new year. And today I decided to bring on a guest. So today we have with us DJ Tenhove. DJ is with the Tenhove Realty Group. He's been a longtime friend of mine and friend of the firm. We have occasionally clients who are dealing with settling an estate, and we will refer people over to DJ and have heard nothing but good things about him and his team and the job that he does. So I'm actually going to throw out some stats, and then I will turn it over to DJ and ask him to introduce himself. But what I will tell you is that he focuses on Monmouth, Middlesex, and Ocean counties and to the north. So we know him really through our Manalapan office. So if you are working with selling a home, buying a home, working with an estate sale in any of those counties or north of those counties, we would encourage you to reach out to DJ and give him a ring. And he's got his contact information there. But in the past year, DJ, which is a completely insane year, so congratulations.
Yeah.
In 2020, they've got 6 team members, all with specific roles. They helped 165 families and individuals last year in selling or buying real estate. That's crazy. $100 million in volume. So congratulations. Pieces of land as little as $90,000, an estate property for $4 million. So congratulations on a great year in 2020. DJ, why don't you sort of fill in the blanks on some things about you that I may have missed, and then we'll talk a little bit about the current real estate market, which I'm sure everybody has an interest in.
I'm sure they do. Well, first off, thanks. I appreciate it, Russ. I think what you're doing here is amazing. I'm just honored to be on the show, so thanks for that. Yeah, the statistics are unbelievable, and I'm the first one to say that I don't do it alone. I do it with everybody that's on the team with us that supports me and supports the other agents that are there. We are one of the top real estate agent teams, not just within Keller Williams, the brokerage that we work for, but within the state of New Jersey, and ranked within the top 1% in the entire country. But the volume, one thing for us, it sounds really cliche and cheesy, but for us, it's really about making sure that every client has an amazing experience and that they want to refer us to somebody else, because we try to grow word of mouth, old mom and pop way of doing boutique level service, and the volume will come. So that's really what we built ourselves on.
That's great. So can you talk a little bit? We'll sort of get into a little bit of nitty gritty about estate planning in real estate, but then I just want to talk about real estate in general. So when I've referred clients to you, I have generally referred clients because somebody has passed away. The home needs to be sold by the estate, and the estate is then distributing assets to either the children or the grandchildren or friends or however the decedent wanted to do it by way of their will. Can you talk a little bit about the differences in you as a realtor helping somebody sell a home when they are just liquidating it as part of an estate versus when it's their home that they're looking to sell?
Absolutely. And first and foremost, thank you for the referrals that you give us, but also when we get referrals from you versus other bankruptcy or estate plan attorneys, your clients are always buttoned up and ready to go. So thank you for that. We're not dealing with two different family members fighting with each other over, who's got ownership or who's the executor or executrix of the estate. So thank you for that.
Sure.
Selling an estate is inherently more complicated because there's even more emotion in selling this property, right? Because it was mom or dad's house, or maybe the house you grew up in. So selling your house is innately going to be emotional for a lot of people, but now you're adding in the fact that you have a deceased family member or relative or friend or somebody that you're handling this for. So we have to make sure we really walk on eggshells a little bit and manage the emotions of it for the client. And then there's the secondary part of this, which is you probably have a house full of stuff that this person needs to go through and get rid of some of it, estate sell some of it, sell antiques, give some of it away, give it to family members. So trying to manage that process for people is a big part of the concierge level service that we try to provide. We're not just about selling the property. We're about trying to make sure that the property gets set up the right way in order to be brought to the market, but also making sure that anybody who deserves to have the materials on the inside and get fair market value for those, that we try to hook people up with vendors and estate sale liquidators or junk guys to make sure the property is all set up and taken care of the right way. I mean, one example that comes to mind is the last client that we took care of with you. She had her father's record collection, which was super duper important for her, that those got sold to somebody who really appreciated that style of opera on records. And oddly enough, we were able to find her a buyer that wanted the records because they loved that style of music. So she was able to keep them in the home when she sold them, and she knew they went to a great owner.
Yeah, and look, for me as the attorney involved, I always appreciate your ability to do that kind of stuff, right? To make sure that we maximize the value of the assets in the home. I mean, at the end of the day, you're right. There's just a ton of sentimentality. There's a ton of emotion involved when you're dealing with those sorts of things. It's no less emotional when you're selling your own home sometimes, but it's just a different kind of emotional. So absolutely. So thank you for that. So can you talk a little bit? I think everybody's just interested. We'll get away from estate planning specifically. Talk about this insane market that we've seen in 2020. What is going on? I mean, every single time I hear about somebody selling their home, I immediately hear that home has sold for more than they asked for it. What's happening what happened in 2020, and what are you seeing now in the first few days of 21?
There's this little thing that happened last year called COVID.
Yeah.
That had an unbelievable alternative effect of what everybody expected was going to happen. And I'm first and foremost going to admit that I mean, we were sitting here having the best January and February 2020 that we had ever had in my 15 years in the business. Business was booming as the Federal Reserve dropped their interest rate and mortgage rates dropped along with it. And everybody kind of came out of the woodwork because their purchasing power went up. And then boom, March 10th we got hit with quarantine and everything shut down. We were able to keep our deals together that were supposed to be closing, but new contracts coming in, gone, zeros. We were throwing goose eggs for 8 weeks. I was thinking we would have to change careers.
It's crazy.
It was going to just disappear. It was going to dive off a cliff. And then all of a sudden we got to the middle of May when things started to open up a little bit. People were allowed to go outside again. And 3 things happened. One, people who wanted to buy a house in 2020, they were out there looking. Those were the people who were just planning to buy that year anyway. 2, the people who were buying on rates dropped even further. We were down in like just around 3.5 rate, which now we've dropped even lower than that. So people were now able to afford 10% more than they could last fall. And then the big one was everybody tried to get out of the city. And by the city, I mean all 5 boroughs, Hoboken, Jersey City, even Philadelphia. If you look at any of the metropolises across the country, people are leaving vertical living and they want to get into single family homes. They want to get at least a townhouse where they have a backyard, some space for the dog. And it just happened en masse. It's unbelievable.
So are you seeing that continuing? I mean, do you see it slowing down at all, or do you see it as of? So you said that basically started in May and kind of ran through the summer and the fall. Now that winter's hit, are you seeing a slowdown at all, or are you seeing it just keep on going?
So our trend that we're seeing where we focus, which again is Monmouth County, Ocean County, Middlesex County, and then we cover the entire northern third of the state as well. So Bergen, Hudson, Essex, and Union County. The closer you got to the city, the more intense that frenzy was. And then the further you get out from the city, it was a little bit less intense. But what happened was I was pricing houses in January and February of last year, and people who decided it wasn't the right time to sell, they would call me back after May. And I'm looking at a 15% jump in price between January, February of last year and now. Yeah. And it keeps going up. And that was a huge correction in the market of going up that 15%, which another time maybe to get into this, that we lost that back in 2007 to 2012 when the market plummeted. That's a gap we never made up. So the market just corrected for that in a good way. But we saw May, June, July, August, September busy, really busy. And then for us, the month before the election, things started to slow a little bit, I think just based on everybody's attention to what was happening with the election. So October, November were a little bit slower, and then it's just continued gangbusters again. December, I mean, we were showing houses on Christmas Eve, on New Year's Eve, New Year's Day. So it's by far the busiest winter we've had in my 15 years in the business. And our projection for next year, I mean, the answer is yes, and I think you're going to have the busiest winter market because people are not buying based on seasonality. They're not buying based on the kids needing to be in school until June. Kids are virtual. Nobody cares. We're going to move to Florida if they need to and do the kids over the computer. So I think you're going to see a lot more people buying December, January, February, March. And then our spring market is going to be even more busy than it normally is.
You know, so I'll just comment with just 2 personal things. First of all, it's nice to hear that you go all the way up to Union County. I grew up in Springfield. So to me, when people ask me where I'm from, I still consider Union County home, even though I've been living in the Philadelphia area and Burlington County for probably 20 plus years now. Home still feels like North Jersey every now and again. But then the second thing you mentioned is
it does exist. It is a real place.
It kind of. We can talk about that separately. But then the other thing that you mentioned that's really, really interesting, kind of unrelated. I have an attorney friend in Chicago, and obviously, right, school's closed, everybody's virtual. He just got a 2-month Airbnb in Arizona. And he and his wife and his kid are like, they're in Arizona because school's virtual. And what's the difference? And he's just going to enjoy some warm weather instead of dealing with the snow and the cold in Chicago.
Why not?
Why not? So what do you think about 21? I mean, you think it's going to continue this way? What do you think? I guess 2 questions. One, you already said you think it'll continue. What changes it? At what point will it not continue anymore? And then what are you sort of watching out for? I mean, what's really positive? What are you kind of concerned about going forward?
Great questions. First and foremost, yes, I anticipate that 2021 is going to be an exponentially good year. If you look at a lot of the economic reports related to real estate, I agree and I concur with them, which is that they were expecting somewhere between a 5 and 7% increase in value this year. Now, in a normal, stable market, we should see real estate go up between 3 and 5% per year. But to see it go up 7%, that's a very healthy move for us, and healthier than that 10, 15% jump that we saw this year that we just can't sustain because people's income doesn't really match that. So at some point you stop being able to afford the house that you're looking for, and then those houses don't sell because the number of people who can afford them is just fewer and fewer. But I anticipate that 5 to 7% growth this year will happen. What we saw people coming out of the boroughs of New York was just wave 1, in my opinion. I think there's 2 to 3 more waves of this coming behind it, of people who just said, I'm going to wait till 2021. I'm going to wait for the kids to finish the next school year. Oh, my son's maybe in 8th grade. I'm going to wait to move out there until he goes to school. I think that's coming this year and potentially into the next year. So that's what I think. It's going to be a good 2021, potentially a great 2022. But we're also due for a correction. I mean, there's no doubt about it. We should have had a real estate market correction somewhere in the last 2 years that just didn't happen. And now we're in completely uncharted territory. So the question you ask of what am I paying attention to, good and bad? I think that the only thing that's really going to cause this to slow down, let me back up one step. So the thing I'm concerned about is if the service economy doesn't come back, right? If people in service jobs that got furloughed, or we can't get people out to restaurants en masse, we can't get people to movie theaters, all those service-related jobs of the 30 million Americans that are furloughed or unemployed right now, those don't come back. There's only so much of this luxury market and people with jobs that are important or necessary, right? That we can sustain. So if that market doesn't come back, that employment market doesn't come back, then I think we're looking at some structural cracks to the economy that could impact the market. But the problem we have right now that's causing this market to be so busy is purely based on economics. It's supply and demand. And right now the supply is here and the demand is here. So until that supply increases or the demand comes down, we're going to be in this same type of a market where properties are going up in value very quickly, and you've got multiple offers and bidding war situations, and the sellers are commanding the market. So not to nerd out in numbers wise, but what we really pay attention to is what's called absorption rate. So looking at, let's just say we're looking at a specific town. You're in Moorestown.
Yep.
Let's look at how many houses are on the market right now. Let's say that 70 houses are on the market. And last month we know that 10 sold. That would tell us 10 divided into 70 would be, we'd have 7. So it would take us 7 months to clear all the inventory at the rate we sold last month. When that number, that absorption rate is between 6 and 8 months, it's a stable market. It means neither the buyer or the seller really is commanding terms. When we're above 8, that means that we're in a buyer's market. There's way more inventory than there are buyers, and they kind of command the market. You want to be the house that sells, you've got to make it prettier, you've got to drop the price, whatever it is. If you're under 6 months of inventory, you're extremely in a seller's market. And right now, most towns are at 1 month. So we're not even low. We are beyond anemic. There's just nowhere near enough inventory that's out there. So for me, there's 2 things that solve the problem. Rates will go up this year, and as rates go up, less people will be in the market, and that will cause the supply not to go up, but the demand might wean a little bit and get us back to a normal point. And the other thing is, the reason why so many houses are not on the market right now is not that people don't want to sell. It's that they can't figure out where they're going to go.
Right.
If I have a house, if I want to move and I'm not independently wealthy and I haven't saved up a ton of money and I need to sell my house in order to go buy that one, I have a sale contingency. If I go out there right now and try to make an offer on a house with a sale contingency, I can't compete because there's 9 other buyers that are renters or don't have a house to sell. So I can't bring my house to the market because I can't get an offer accepted. So what happens is that house sits off market, waiting to be sold because the buyers can't figure out where they're going to go. So what we keep preaching to people is put the house on the market, sell it, go move into a rental, and put yourself in a situation of a little bit of discomfort so that you now become a more attractive buyer. You don't have a contingency anymore, and you can wait for the perfect property to come on and then leap at it rather than sitting here in limbo where you can't do anything about it. And that also causes the supply and demand problem to get worse and worse.
So great points. Appreciate your opinion. And it's, it's fun. We'll try to have, I'm going to sort of open up the breadth of the show to other people who might also have opinions on things like interest rates. Yeah. And I guarantee you that there as many people as believe one will believe the other. So, but I always appreciate your thinking on it. So I'm going to ask you one last question. And then I'm hoping that you can just give some contact info, and I'll remind you to do that. But here's the one last question. So obviously in estate planning, even though everybody should be doing estate planning, if you have minor kids, you should be doing estate planning. If you recently got married, you should be doing estate planning. But quite often people are putting it off. They're putting it off until they're a little bit older. They're sort of thinking about their own mortality. When you're dealing with people in that sort of 55 and over group who are thinking about retirement planning, estate planning, they may be looking at that 55 and over community. Can you talk about that a little bit and sort of the differences in dealing with those people and the market in some of those communities relative to kind of the regular market and the run-of-the-mill person who's looking to buy their first house at the age of 30 or whatever it may be?
Sure. First off, I'm pretty confident that most people don't do the estate planning that they should, myself included. So that's a great reminder. With the 55 plus community, we have seen a tremendous amount of proliferation of building in that market because the baby boomer generation that's buying right now is huge, right? And they need more supply of that. What's amazing to me is the dynamic that people are selling their family residence that they raised their kids in, and they're buying an estate, buying a 55 plus community home that's more expensive than what they're leaving. It's an unbelievable dynamic because most people make that move to downsize, right?
Right.
But their taxes and HOAs are now $22,000 a year. The house cost $800,000 to $900,000. The house they were selling was $500,000 or $600,000. But it allows them two things. It gets them a brand new construction house or a recently constructed house that otherwise they can't find, with a bedroom on the first floor that they can't find. And it reduces their maintenance outside the house, right? Nobody wants to be taking care of the lawn and all that stuff anymore. Right. They just want to be able to lock and go down to Florida and be done with it. So we're seeing a tremendous amount of purchasing in that market. As far as dealing with those clients, they're pretty savvy because they usually have bought and sold real estate a couple of times, and they probably just sold their residence as part of selling that house to buy this one. So they're usually pretty wise clients, and it really comes down to just educating them on the differences of a 55 plus community might bring them as a bonus, and then what some of the risks are, which, without talking too long about this, that's one of my concerns with 55 plus communities is the generation behind the baby boomers. My generation is like this big compared to the baby boomer generation. So what happens to all those 55 plus communities when there's not as much of a market for them 15, 20 years down the line from
that? They'll turn them into country clubs, obviously.
Yeah, it's exactly what's going to happen. Or they're going to drop the age restrictions on them. Otherwise, the property value will drop. So they'll figure out a way to not have that happen. That's for sure.
Great. Well, DJ, I appreciate it. I appreciate the high level of service and everything that you've done for the clients that I've referred over. If you don't mind, why don't you just tell everybody how to get a hold of you if they want to, give them a little bit of contact information, and we'll wrap up.
Absolutely. So website's being rebuilt right now, but that would be tenhoverealty.com. And my name is obviously spelled there below, the TENHOEVE. Best way to reach me is on my cell phone, which is the 201-315-9157 number. Text, email, anyways, best way to reach us. You can reach us on social media. There's always somebody able to answer the call. We are salespeople at heart.
Great. Well, DJ, thank you. And thank you, everybody, for tuning in and checking this out. If you have any questions, comments, feel free to reach out to me, russ@nesovichlaw.com, or leave a comment. We're going to do our best to answer people's comments, questions, things about estate planning in future episodes. So if you have a comment, if you have a question, if there's anything you want us to make sure that we address in our future sort of 2-3 minute snippets that we're trying to put out every day, by all means, let us know. And with that, I want to thank you all for joining. And DJ, thanks so much for your time. I really, really appreciate it. You're the first guest. Well done.
That's impressive. I feel honored. Thanks.
All right. Take care, everybody. Thank you. Bye-bye.